Yeah, I saw the note that said you guys. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably work. I have to figure out now. Come on in. Hi, go ahead. Well, we'll see when they get here. You never know till they get here. It's hard to say. We don't know. Yep. Nobody knows. Sure. Yep. Oh, yeah. I know. I turned the heat up when I got here.
They were here. And I was like,
these are the coolest things. Where are they?
In one of the, in there.
I saw them over here. I was like, oh my God.
That's what they are. Today we don't need them.
Right. But these are awesome.
Yeah, but you sure?
Yeah.
Though the how much pronunciation of them. So, because they are very old.
That's very cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I found them. So one of those goes to the guitar, and the one gets plugged in. It should stay plugged in.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no reason to unplug it.
You did. And yet here we are.
I'm kind of glad I didn't say.
Are we broadcasting yet?
Yes.
Okay. That one. We could have, let's start with lighting the candles. So Amaya will light candles for us. The blessing is right here. And you can use either matches or lighter, whichever you prefer. So we're going to light first.
Baruch atah Adonai, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kibashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner Erev Shabbat.
Amen. Yasher koach. Thank you so much. And there we go. There we go. It's Shabbos now. It's good to see everybody. There's some new people to me, which is very exciting. It feels like forever since we've been here on a Friday night. I was realizing the last time we were here praying together at night, it was Yom Kippur. So yes, it's been a while. Let's begin on page 10. It's going to be the third song there, Yedid Nefesh. If you don't know the tune, this is how it goes. Nay nay na nay 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 na 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 nay 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 na nay nay na 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 yai nay nay na yai nay na nay nay na yai nay 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 na na nay 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 yai nay nay na. Try together. Yai nay 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 na 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 yai nay nay na 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 yai nay nay na yai nay nay na yai nay nay ya na na nay 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 Yedid nefesh Rachman, Yedid nefesh Rachman, Meshochadecha El Retzonecha, Meshochadecha, Yenanay nay nay El Retzonecha, Iday nay 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 nay. Yarotzav becha kemoya ishtachavel mu na 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 darecha. Back to the beginning. Yedid nefesh Rachman, Yedid nefesh Rachman, Meshochadecha El Retzonecha, Meshochadecha Yadadai El Retzonecha. Yedid Nefesh, heart's delight. The energy of Shabbat, of Kabbalat Shabbat, the beginning of Shabbat is a little different from Saturday morning. It's this, especially the Kabbalat Shabbat, the beginning of the service, the sort of, the big symbol is the welcoming in of Shabbat. The Kabbalat Shabbat service is relatively recent in Jewish time, which is to say it's been around for only about 500 years. And it was invented by mystics, by the mystics of Tzfat, who would go outside, because they were in the Galilee, so usually the weather is conducive to, they would go outside to welcome, they saw Shabbat as a bride, to welcome the Shabbat bride. Is the Shabbat bride Shekhinah? Is it is it aspect of God? What is it exactly? Doesn't matter so much, but it's that feeling that the feeling is this feeling of love and connection and of welcoming and approaching. And this poem is not theirs. I can't remember off the top of my head who wrote Yedid Nefesh, but it fits as an opening for Kabbalat Shabbat. Let's go to page 10. at the bottom of the page, Or Zarua Latzadik. So they chose the series of psalms to take us into Shabbat. And of course, they wrote L'chadodi. So that's where we're heading. What was I going to say? I was going to say about Or Zarua. Light is sown for the righteous. And I thought that was a good way to start, considering that we are now in the time of year when it really is Shabbat already. It really is dark by the time we get here. Or zaru ala tzadik uleishre lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik uleishre lev simcha. Together. Or zaru ala tzadik uleishre lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik. Last two lines. Simchut tzadikim b'Adonai ve'odu lezecher kodsho. Simchut tzadikim b'Adonai ve'odu lezecher kodsho. Or zaru ala tzadik uleishre lev simcha. Latzadik uleishre lev simcha. Turn the page on page 12. Temperature is changing, which means the guitar goes out of tune. Page 12. Zamru l'Adonai bechino. Sing and praise Adonai. It says with the lyre. We don't really know what the kino was. But instrumental music seemed to be what they did in the temple when they had these songs. Zamru l'Adonai bechino. Bechino vekol zimra. That together. Zamru l'Adonai bechino. Bechino vekol zimra. Here's the second half, same words. Zamru l'Adonai bechino. Bechino vekol zimra. 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 The next page, page 13. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu. start getting the energy back up. See, it's about arriving. It's about settling in. And then sing together. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, exalt Adonai our God. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu, romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu behar kodsho. On page 14 and 15. So we've been doing all these snippets. I'd like to do this whole psalm, but it's okay if you just do the tune. So this is a relatively recent tune. I think I tried to do this a couple months ago here. The last time we did just plain old Friday night. It's a tune by my friend Rabbi David Seidenberg. It goes like this. And then you echo. So even if you're not following at all, when you hear that, you can go. Do that together. And the second half goes like this. So if you want to just go on singing Yadadai while I sing the words, that's fine. If you are familiar with the words of the psalm, just see how the words go with this tune. Habul Adonai b'nei elim, Habul Adonai kabod va'oz, Habul Adonai kavod shemo ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh al Adonai al hamayim el hakavod yirim al mayim rabim kol Adonai ba'koach kol Adonai behadar kol Adonai shover razim v'shaper Adonai et arzei halvanon hayar kidem kemo el Levanon v'Sirion kemo ben re'emim kol Adonai chotzev lavot esh kol Adonai yachil midbar kadesh kol Adonai yecholel hayalot vayecheso מערות ובהיכלו כולו אומר כבוד, כולו אומר כבוד, אדוני למבול ישב וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, את עמו בשלום. יאללה לילה אלה אלה אלה, יאללה לילה אלה אלה, יאללה לילה אלה 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 אלה, יאללה לילה נינה, יאללה לילה נינה. Page 16. The Chadodi. Let's do it over here. Otherwise it gets too high. Let's do verses 1 and 2 on verse 16, and verse 5 on 17, and verse 9 on the bottom of 17, right? And, you know, by the time we get to the end, we rise, we face the door, we welcome the Sabbath bride, we bow to the two sides. It's always fun when somebody comes late, right then, when you're bowing to the Sabbath queen. Lecha dodi likrat kala, come my beloved, to greet the bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Verse 1, sha'amor v'sachor b'dibur echad, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse 5 on top of page 17. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Please rise in body or in spirit. Welcome in the Sabbath bride. Usually we face the door wherever that happens to be. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Have a seat. Page 22, we have a psalm for Shabbat. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. Is it page 18? Did I say 22? Yes, I'm looking. I have a different book because this one stays open. If I put one of those green ones here, it'll just close on me. So I did the big book. But I didn't write the right page. Thank you. Page 18. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי גיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. We can go on to where we left off. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, ומעשה ידיך רנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. Let's continue to page 24. Actually, the words to this aren't in the book, but they're very simple. 24 is the Shema and its blessings, the Baruch Hu, yes? Yes. That's where we're going to be in a moment. But before we do the Baruch Hu, the introduction to the Baruch Hu, the words are very basic. Baruch Hu, you can repeat after me. Baruch Hu, dear one, dear one. Shekhinah, Shekhinah, holy name, holy name. Let's do this part together. When I call on the light of my soul, I come home. Baruch Hu, dear one. Shekhinah, holy name. When I call on the light of my soul, I come. Please rise in body or in spirit. Page 24 for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. You can have a seat. Page 27 on the top. The first of our blessings that surround the Shema. We think usually about the structure of things that they're leading up into something, right? On Saturday, the service leads up into the Torah reading, right? Everything up to the Baruch Hu led to the Baruch Hu. There's an interesting structure for the Shema and its blessings, that the Shema is surrounded by its blessings. And in the morning, we have two blessings before it and one blessing after it. In the evening, we have two blessings before it and two blessings after it. And the blessings are different in the morning and the evening, but it's been observed that the themes are related. The first blessing is always a blessing for creation. But in the morning, that's a blessing for light. And in the evening, that's the blessing for the changing of the time into the dark. And the second blessing is always a blessing that combines God's love and the revelation of Torah. And the third blessing always has mi kamocha in it, and it's always about the power of redemption. So there's this pathway that goes from creation, revelation, that's how it's classically thought of as relationship around Torah, to the Shema, the receiving of the unity of God, and that from there we come to the idea of redemption, which of course in Judaism, redemption is a collective thing. Mikamocha, the central symbol is the crossing of the Red Sea. And in the evening, there's an additional blessing that goes back, I like to say that it starts and ends in general, there's very Jewish in the middle, very Jewish particular, right? But at the beginning, it's about creation. That's for everyone. At the end, Hashkivenu is about protection. It's about the evening. So that's the structure of where we are right now. Page 27. Let's read together on the top. Or you could, if you're not one for reading all together in English, just take it in. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai amari v'aravi. Page 28. Everlasting love you offered your people Israel. Avat olam bet Israel amcha avta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu v'kumeinu נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו וכם נהגה יומם ולילה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. The Shema is on page 34 and 35. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Page 32. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'ayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha veshinantam levanecha vedibarta bam beshivtecha beveitecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 35 at the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Page 36. Michamocha, who is like you, the song that the children of Israel sang when they had marched through the impossible, the split sea. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, גאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 38. The top of 39. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. On third line on page 38. Ufros aleinu sukat shelomecha. Let's do that again. Ufros aleinu sukat Baruch atah Adonai. I'm skipping to the bottom. Aboreh sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Please rise in body or in spirit. Vishamru is on page 40. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We remain standing for the Amidah, which begins on page 130 with a prayer for praying. We'll sing that together, and we will continue the Amidah on our own, following the prompts for Shabbat evening, not morning. And for those of you who are not familiar with this book, on each page, you might have noticed, we've been turning pages pretty quickly, right? Because on each page we choose either something on the right side in Hebrew or the translation of the Hebrew, or something on the left, which is a more interpretive version of that prayer. And as always, you don't have to do the whole thing. You find something that speaks to you, stay with it. And we will come together at the end of the Amidah, which is on on page 148, actually. We'll finish it together. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid teilatecha. Turn, O God, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. If you're still following your own path, keep doing that. You can join me on page 148 when you get to it. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'necha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. Have a seat. So, if it was a morning service, after they meet as when we would read Torah, so it seems like the best place to share a few words of Torah. The parsha this week is Vayera, and parts of it we all know because, in fact, this is the parsha out of which the readings for Rosh Hashanah come. And so it includes the birth of Isaac and the banishment of Hagar and Sarah, Hagar and Ishmael, and then the sacrifice of Isaac. But before we get to that, this is the Uber Parsha. It has everything in it. Before we get to that, there is the story of three men show up to the tent there where Abraham is sitting. The tradition says us the last parsha he had just received the covenant of circumcision, so he's sitting there and healing. Our tradition says God visits the sick. That's how we learn to visit the sick. But Abraham doesn't behave sick. He gets up, and in the tradition, I was in preparing for this, I read an article by somebody who has been studying Bedouin culture. And he said that what is described in the way that Abraham welcomes in these guests could be straight out of, 20th century Bedouin hospitality. It's exactly the same thing. You're supposed to actually not just wait for them to come to you. You're supposed to go and say, if they pass you by, then you lose out on honor. It's an honor to take in guests, and it's a dishonor not to host your guests. So he brings them in, he treats them well, he gives them water to wash their feet, he feeds them, right? And then that story, and that's, by the way, the story where these people, it turns out, are angels, and they tell him that Sarah will have a son within a year, and Sarah laughs. Last parsha, God told Abraham that he would have a son, and Abraham laughed. So one way or another, his name is Yitzchak, which means will laugh. And but then this story is dovetailed to another story because the three men go on, and Abraham, in the way a good host should, he accompanies them with them. But two of them seem to go on, and he remains alone, speaking to one of them, and the text seems to forget that he's talking to an angel, and he's talking to God. Check check in with me about a scholarly bit about that kind of language about angels in the Bible. But so he's talking to God, and God tells Abraham where they're on their way to, because they stopped by Abraham's tent on their way to do something else. And what they're going to do is they're going to Sodom. And they're going to see if Sodom is really as terrible as the cries that have come up to God suggest, right? And because why? Because God is going to destroy Sodom and the towns near it. And what does Abraham do? He bargains with God. He says, really, how could you destroy a whole town? It couldn't possibly be that all the people in Sodom are worthy of the death penalty, right? He says, how could the Lord of all justice not do justice, right? What if there are 50 righteous people in this town? Would you destroy the whole town if there are 50 righteous people? God says, if there are 50 righteous people, I won't destroy the town, right? And so Abraham goes like, forgive me for having the temerity to do this, but what if it's 45? God says, I won't destroy for the sake of 45. And how far does Abraham bargain him down to? 10, right? And what do we get from that? That's a community, and that's seen as the origin of why 10 is a minyan. 10 is a community, right? And once they get down to 10, Abraham is like, I don't feel like I can push this any farther, right? And what happens, it seems to be two angels, right, who continue on, and they go to visit Abraham's nephew, Lot. Well, they go to the town, and it's Abraham's nephew, Lot, who also comes out and gives hospitality. But the hospitality seems to be have a different urgency to it. The hospitality that Abraham offered seemed to be about Abraham's deep desire to be a righteous and honorable person. Like, oh, I have an opportunity to do a mitzvah, to do a good thing, to bring in guests. Lot seems more concerned. The people are like, oh, we're going to sleep in the town square. They're like, don't sleep in the town square. Like, please just come over to my house, right? Because what happens is it says the entire community of Sodom, or at least the entire male community of Sodom, comes up, surrounds the house, and goes like, oh, you got guests, and wants to mistreat them. This is where we get the word sodomy from, is this situation, which, by the way, suggests that sodomy maybe isn't about homosexual relationships. Maybe it's about rape. And he says, no, this is a very disturbing thing. He offers them his daughters instead. The angels, what do the angels do? They blind all the people. They take Lot and Lot's family, at least his daughters who are not married, into Sodom, and they leave the town, right? Lot's wife looks back. She turns into a pillar of salt. That whole story. And Sodom and Gomorrah are destroyed. There's another town by the name of Zoar, which Lot goes to, which is spared. So, weird story. And that's only the beginning of the parsha, right? The rest of it. So what I've been coming back to a lot is Sodom. And Abraham's pleading for Sodom. The question is, what is the sin actually of Sodom? Is it the threat of sodomy? They didn't actually even do it, right? Was it the mistreating of guests, right? It could be that it's this deep treatment, the mistreatment of people who come in who are outsiders. It could be that. Interestingly, there is another place in the Bible where Sodom is mentioned, and the destruction of Sodom is mentioned, and that is in the book of Ezekiel, of all places. In chapter 16, verse 29, behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister, your sister Sodom. right? So Ezekiel is telling the Jews that, like, don't be like Sodom, right? This is the iniquity of Sodom. Pride, fullness of bread, and abundance of idleness was in her and her daughters. Neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and the needy. That's some additional information that apparently Sodom wasn't only bad for outsiders, they were bad for their own poor. So, of course, this is an opportunity for Midrash to actually tell us a story, right? So the classic Midrash in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer is a story, and the Midrash is this is what we're doing in our Lunch and Learn. We're reading some contemporary Midrash. Midrash is probably best understood as Jewish fan fiction, Torah fan fiction. What did these characters do that isn't being told, that we're not being told? But what Midrash does is it's not just what else can I do with these characters, right? Just the classic fan fiction thing. But usually Midrash goes like, that's a strange word. Let me tell you a story about this word. And the story that this Midrash takes as a jumping off point is remember when we said that the angels went on to Sodom, they went to see if it's really as bad, right? And God said, because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come to me. The cry of it. That's a very strange way to put it in English. It's even stranger in Hebrew. Haketza'akata. Is it like her cry? Her. It? Her. What is it? Rabbis say. It's a story. Her cry. Who is she? She is one of Lot's older daughters. And this older daughter of Lot was married to one of the wealthy people of Sodom. And the story tells us there was a law in Sodom that you are not allowed to feed poor people. Anybody who feeds poor people will be burned at the stake. And she encountered a poor person and felt so bad for him that she would sneak food. When she went out to draw water, she would put food in her pitcher on her way out, feed the poor person, and go get her water and come back. And they were like, wait, how is this guy still alive? Who's feeding him? And they figured out that it was her. And it was her, when she was being burned at the stake, who called up to God and said, God, come see what's going on here. And that was the cry. It was that, it's interesting way of thinking. How is it that it took that cry to get God's attention? We may learn from this that prayer draws God's attention, especially the prayer of the needy. That's definitely a tradition, a trope in rabbinic tradition. But there's also this thing, Maimonides says that you should always think of yourself as just on the knife's edge between being righteous and worthy of condemnation. And that every action you do could turn the needle one way or the other. So if you have an opportunity to do something good, do it, because who knows, you might be condemned if you don't. And if you have enough decision to do something bad, don't. And the same is true for the collective of all of us, right? So it's not just your own life that is on the knife's edge when you make a choice. And it was that act, that deed, it was that punishing, a collective punishing of a person who tried to do the right thing that turned the needle over to the condemnation of all of Sodom. I think there's a lot that we can learn about our own actions in the world, and also our collective actions as a body politic, whatever level that is, like communities, towns, states, country. But what I've really been stuck with here is, so this gives me a sense of what Sodom's sin is, right? They acted collectively. That's what it seems that the Midrash is telling us. They acted unjustly in a collective way. But then I'm still stuck with the question of Abraham. Because Abraham is still asking if there are 10 righteous people, right? How could there not be 10 righteous people? Are there not 10 people who are fighting against the system in it? And I think that that's what I find myself taking away from that is, you know, this idea of being split 50-50. We're very familiar with that in our culture, right? Who are we when we judge a community, whether it's our own community or another community? Do we think we're God, or do we think we're Abraham? God can say they've gone too far and condemn the body politic, perhaps. Abraham doesn't. God doesn't need to convince Abraham. God can do what God does. But Abraham is still going to say there's got to be some good people. Or there's got to be some percentage, you can also say within a person, there's got to be some goodness, right? And I think that that's the lesson we need to learn from Abraham. And it's an interesting thing because I don't think Abraham loses this, right? When God says, I'm going to destroy Sodom, Abraham argues. When God says, sacrifice your only son, God says, well, didn't work last time. And so maybe the lesson we need to learn from Abraham who argues with God, and not from the Abraham who just goes ahead and follows the directions of, follows direction to do something horrible. But we need to continue thinking and, finding within ourselves what we call the still small voice, that divine voice within us. This is like, this is maybe not the right thing. And when you're on that knife's edge, right, to go in the direction of love and not the direction of strict justice, right? This is what we pray that God will do for us and for our community. Hope that's helpful as we think through this very, very difficult world we're in. I'd like to take this opportunity now to say a blessing for healing. It's not always in the evening service, but if you want the words, they're on page 175. I have a list here of people that I am aware of who are in need of healing. When I'm done with the list, I will look around, starting with folks on YouTube. If you want, if you're with us in real time, you can type something in the chat, and Mia will read it out to us, and then everybody else in the room. Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha imotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Some of the people we're thinking of in our community today include Joyce Fox, Wendy Kleinfaller, Roy Liederman, Raisa Butrivka, Rose Edelman, Judy Freed, Arvine Peckman, Janet Press, Jordan Montero, Jackson Swartz, Ethel Backman, Judith Laro, Jason Mota, Lisa Bullman, David Gay, Lisa Diaz, LZ Diaz, Mary McKenzie, Bill McKenzie, Stacy Gay, Chavadina Batsura, Ted Amgott, Gene Matulski, Doug Michaud, Shanvul Bat Label Vikela, Aaron Curry, Chris Lombardi, Deidre Reese, Matthew Stein, Kathy Hatch, Matt Siegel, Lisa Graff, David Philbrick, Gabrielle Maya, Elliot Becker, Roz Helfand, Rezali Babat, Binyamin Verachel, Shlomo Meir, Ben Beryl Vester, Scott Rotsky. Take these names and all others in our hearts, all who need healing. Mi sheberachimotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. We move towards the conclusion of our service with Aleinu. If I can find the page for it. 187 in your book. Page 187, at the top. Aleinu also includes in it this image of a world perfected. Please rise in body or in spirit. Page 187. Aleinu leshabeach ladon hakol, latet gdula leotzer breshit, shehu sam chelkenu leachet. Sorry. Shehu noteh shamayim veyosed aretz, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגבהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Top of 189. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. O may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth, and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. V'nema v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, mayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. We remain standing as we turn to page 193 for the Mourner's Kaddish. As together we assert the goodness of the world despite its losses. We are remembering today the recent deaths of Lee Backman, Stacy Gay's beloved mother, and Shannon Cravallo, Michael Peckman's beloved cousin, who passed away Wednesday night. Yartzites this time of year in the Jewish calendar in our community include Molly Becker, Joseph Shepard, Charles Tannenbaum, Matilda Rubin, Gertrude Sandman Assaran, thank you. Lena Pine, Frida Altenhaus, Minnie Vespris, Helen Boyd Woodall Anderson, Myron Bloom, Morris Nowick, Cassiel Altenhaus, and Rose Cohen. Are there other names we should be mindful of? We take these names and all who have passed, those who don't have someone to say Kaddish for them, and we join on page 193 in the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, be'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol bet Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehe shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shlam Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. Have a seat. Do we have announcements? I think I have some announcements too. Yeah, I have some announcements too. Go ahead.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
We have religious school on 17th, and there's introduction to the synagogue.
Nope, there isn't.
Okay. 12 o'clock on the 18th, Monday, we have lunch and learn. 19th, we have queer Torah study at 5:30. 21st, we have religious school at 4 o'clock. And next Shabbat, we have services at 9:30.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So for those of you who, it doesn't seem like it's on this calendar, right? But for those of you who are in town on Thanksgiving weekend, on the 30th, I'm pretty sure it's the 30th, we have our, it's on the 24th.
It's on the 24th. There we go. It is on the calendar. I knew it was there. Oh. Sunday the 24th.
Sunday the 24th. It's even sooner than I thought. Okay. That helps me too. On Sunday the 24th at 2 p.m., we will be gathering at the entrance to the Massasoit State Park. Hopefully we'll get Thanksgiving. And we're going to have a nice walk. We're going to walk down to the beach, have some little snacks, say a few words there. So that's hopefully going to be just a nice day. And then next month, on December 28th, which is the 4th night of Hanukkah, that is our big Hanukkah lighting on the green, followed by a party in the vestry. We will be having a Yankee swap this year. And so we can, people will be able to swap presents and stuff. And there'll also be games and puzzles and food. So it should be a great time.
Yeah. So just a reminder that we are now into our regular pattern of the third Shabbat of the month is going to be a Friday evening instead of a Saturday morning. So the first Shabbat is the Shabbat Rishonah, which is the family-oriented service. The second Shabbat is normal Saturday. The third is a Friday night. The fourth is back a regular Shabbat. This month there is a fifth Shabbat, but it is Thanksgiving weekend, and we've decided everybody is going to be off doing Thanksgiving things, so we've decided to not have services that Shabbat. I don't know if we've made a decision about, but I think we will have Shabbat during the middle of winter break because it's the middle of Hanukkah and we're having a Hanukkah party that night anyway. So hopefully enough of us will be in town to get together as Jews in Christmas time. Next month, so the third Shabbat next month, there are two exciting possibilities. One of them, let me put it this way. One of them is that I am currently talking, I will be away. So I asked Sam Teigel if he would substitute for me here. Before Rosh Hashanah, he said, yeah, sure, that should be no problem. I still need to double check with him and make sure that he does have it on his calendar. So those of you who've been here at the high holidays know how lovely that will be, and I'm sorry, I'm going to miss that.
But
and
Rev Josh, couldn't anybody also join you away on retreat?
Yes.
At Camp Ramah.
Camp Ramah, so in
with National Havurah Committee.
So National Havurah, the National Havurah Committee is having its winter retreat that weekend, which is why Beth and I will be away. Beth will be teaching about Jewish romance books. You can, by the way, also catch, if you're interested in that, but you can't make it out to the Camp Ramah, Beth will also be teaching about Jewish romance books at Lair House in Somerville once a month, so you can ask her about that. But I would like to put in a plug for Havurah, for that Havurah weekend. It's a really, really wonderful retreat in Western Massachusetts. And if you want to know more about it, ask us. I will continue plugging it. But if you can't make it out there, if Sam can't make it, I will find there are other people at Hebrew College who are as amazing as Sam. So I'll get one of them. Let's conclude our service with Shalom Aleichem, which is on page 20. There we go, it's that note. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Asharet, Malachei Elyon, Bimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leShalom, Malachei Ashalom, Malachei Elyon. ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ערכוני לשלום מלאכי השלום מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא צאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Shabbat Shalom. Goodbye to people online, and we will go downstairs for Kiddush.